The desert night was cold and silent when Jonas stepped outside his small metal workshop. He lived far from the busy towns, close to the red dunes that stretched like an endless sea. Jonas was a simple human mechanic, a man who fixed broken engines, solar bikes, and water pumps for whoever passed by. He liked quiet nights, but tonight something felt wrong. The wind carried a strange smell, burned sand and smoke, the kind that came only when trouble was near. He was about to go inside when he heard it. A faint scratching. Very soft, almost like someone's weak nails dragging across metal. Jonas froze. His home never had visitors this late, and nobody ever approached quietly in the desert. People shouted from far away to avoid being mistaken for thieves. The scratching came again, this time followed by a tiny whimper. Jonas slowly reached for his lamp and walked toward the metal door. His heartbeat grew louder. He pulled the lock open and pushed the heavy door out. A woman collapsed right at his feet, but she was not human. Her skin was light blue, cracked from dehydration. Her eyes were half open but unfocused, her lips dry and trembling. She looked like she had been walking for days under the burning suns without food or water. Her clothes were torn, covered in dust and small burn marks. She was shaking so hard. It looked like she might break apart, and behind her stood a child, a small alien girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, holding her mother's hand with both of her tiny hands. Her eyes were wide with fear. She had the same blue skin, but her face was bruised, and Jonas could see she hadn't eaten in a long time. Her legs trembled as if she could faint any second. Jonas knelt beside them. "Hey, can you hear me? You're safe now." The mother tried to speak, but no words came, only a soft exhale. Her fingers clutched Jonas's shirt, pulling him closer. As she whispered with the last bit of strength she had, "Please, don't let them take her, my child." Then she collapsed completely. Jonas caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was burning hot from fever. The child stepped back, unsure if the human was friend or enemy. Jonas looked at the little girl and gave her the kindest smile he could manage. "It's okay. I'm here to help." But inside he was worried. He had never seen someone this dehydrated and injured. Whoever had done this was not far. The desert carried marks of violence, burned trails, footprints, and the smell of energy weapons. He gently lifted the alien mother into his arms and carried her inside. The child followed closely, gripping her small bag, the only thing she had left. Inside the workshop, Jonas laid the mother on his bed and grabbed clean water. The child rushed forward, shaking her head. "No! Too much water will hurt her," she said in a weak voice. "She needs small sips, slowly." Jonas nodded. He offered a small spoonful and touched it to the mother's lips. She swallowed with difficulty. The child watched every movement, afraid her mother might stop breathing. "What happened to you too?" Jonas asked softly. The child didn't answer right away. She looked at the door, her small hands shaking. "They chased us," she whispered finally. "The Sand Fang gang. They want my mother. They want me too." Jonas felt a cold shiver run through his body. He had heard of the Sand Fang gang. Everyone had. They were ruthless desert bandits, slavers, killers, and hunters of anyone weak or alone. If they were chasing this mother and child, it meant something serious. "Are they close?" Jonas asked. The child nodded. "They were right behind us. They will come here." Jonas looked toward the door. The desert was silent again, but he knew that silence wouldn't last. He checked the mother's pulse, weak but alive. Then he looked into the child's eyes. "You're safe now," he said quietly. But even as he said it, the ground began to vibrate. Very softly at first, then louder, the unmistakable sound of hoverbikes approaching. Jonas's heart tightened. The Sand Fang gang had found the trail, and they were coming straight for his door. The sound of hoverbikes grew louder, shaking the sand outside Jonas's workshop. The little alien girl pressed herself against the wall, her hands over her ears. Her eyes were full of fear, and Jonas could see she had lived too many nights like this. No child should know the sound of death coming for them. Jonas closed the window shutters slowly. He could see dust rising in the distance, multiple riders, maybe 10, maybe more. Their engines had a distinct growl. The Sandfang gang used stolen military bikes, loud and heavy, something they liked because it made everyone afraid before they even arrived. He turned to the girl. "What's your name?" "Lyra." She whispered. "Okay, Lyra," Jonas said. Calmly, "I need you to stay close to your mother and stay quiet. Don't move unless I tell you, understand?" She nodded, clutching her small bag tightly. Jonas locked the door and grabbed an old rifle from under his table. It wasn't powerful, but it could scare someone or buy time. He loaded it with trembling hands. He had never fought a gang before. He fixed engines, not trouble. But now trouble had arrived whether he liked it or not. The bikes roared to a stop outside. Voices barked orders. Shadows crossed the dusty window. A heavy fist slammed against Jonas's metal door, making the hinges rattle. "Open up, human." A deep voice shouted. "We know they came this way." Jonas took a slow breath and walked toward the door. His heartbeat felt like a hammer inside his chest. He unlocked the small view slit and slid it open. A massive alien stood outside, scarred skin, yellow eyes, and spikes along his arms. His armor was patched with old battle trophies. This was a hunter, and not a normal one. Jonas recognized him immediately. Ragthar, one of the gang's deadliest men. A tracker who could follow footprints across storms. Ragthar leaned close too. The slit, his hot breath fogging the metal. "You see a woman and a kid come through here?" Jonas forced his face to stay calm. "No, haven't seen anyone. It's been a quiet night." Ragthar sniffed the air. Humans weren't supposed to have good senses, but aliens, they could smell fear, sweat, even blood. Jonas stayed completely still. Ragthar's eyes narrowed. "You're sweating, mechanic." "It's hot," Jonas said, even though the night was cold. Another voice came from behind Ragthar. "Check the place. All of it." Heavy footsteps circled the workshop. Jonas could hear bikes being parked, weapons being reloaded, metal boots stepping over sand. Inside, Lyra hugged her mother, who was still unconscious. She kept her hand on her mother's forehead, trying to cool her fever. Jonas closed the slit and stepped back. He whispered to Lyra, "Don't make a sound." The hunters circled again. One stopped near a water barrel outside the workshop. Another kicked through the sand searching for tracks. Then one of them called out, voice sharp and excited, "I found something." Jonas's blood went cold. He rushed to another window and peeked out. One of the hunters had crouched near the door, pointing at small, faint footprints. Lyra's footprints. Jonas's heart dropped. Ragthar walked over, inspecting them carefully. "Small feet," he growled. "A child. They were here." He stood and slammed his fist against Jonas's door again. "Open it, now." Jonas swallowed hard. His mind raced. If they came inside, they would find the mother and child. And the gang didn't leave witnesses. Thinking fast, Jonas grabbed a jar from the shelf, a jar full of old mechanical oil. He opened the lid and poured it across the doorstep, covering the footprints. Ragthar shouted again, "Human!" Last chance. Jonas opened the door slowly. Ragthar pushed his way inside with two more hunters behind him. "Step aside," Ragthar growled. "We search." Jonas stood in their way. "You have no right. This is my home." Ragthar smiled with sharp teeth. "We take what we want." The hunters shoved him aside and began walking around the workshop. They opened cabinets, checked under tables, kicked boxes. Lyra held her breath inside the small bunker under the bed. Jonas had hidden her there only seconds earlier. The mother lay still beside her, too weak to move. Ragthar sniffed the air again, then He walked toward the bed. Jonas's fingers tightened on the rifle. Ragther crouched down, lifted the blanket, looked under the bed. Nothing. The bunker door was perfectly hidden beneath a sheet of metal Jonas had welded years ago. Ragther found nothing but dust. He stood up slowly. "You're lying." "But you hide it well," he said. He leaned close to Jonas, his eyes cold. "We will be back at night, and if we find even a single trace, we burn this place." Ragther and the hunters exited the workshop. Engines roared again. The gang left. But only for now. Jonas exhaled shakily. They had survived the first search. Night was coming fast, and the gang always returned at night more violent, more angry, and ready to kill anyone who stood in their way. Jonas waited until the sound of the hoverbikes faded into the distance. Only then did he lift the metal sheet under his bed and open the small bunker hidden beneath it. Inside, Lyra held her mother's hand tightly, her eyes wide with fear. Sweat covered her forehead even though the bunker was cool. "It's okay," Jonas whispered, lowering himself down to them. "They're gone for now." Lyra crawled out first, looking around nervously. "They will come back," she said, in a small trembling voice. "They always come back. They don't stop," Jonas nodded. She was right. He could already feel the danger building around them. The Sandfang gang was like a pack of wolves. Once they smelled prey, they didn't quit until they got what they wanted. He gently lifted the alien mother from the bunker. Her breathing was even weaker now. Her skin had turned from pale blue to grayish blue, a bad sign. Jonas carried her to the bed again and checked her pulse. It was faint, but still there. "We need to help her quickly," Jonas said. "What's her name?" Lyra brushed her mother's hair softly. "Her name is Sira," she whispered. "She needs healing gel and water. But slowly, and rest." Jonas opened a drawer and pulled out what little medical supplies he had: basic human bandages, disinfectant, and herbs he collected from the valley. None of them were made for alien biology, but Lyra guided him. "Not too much," she said. "Human medicine is strong for us." Jonas nodded and followed her instructions carefully. As he worked, he noticed small symbols on Sira's necklace, symbols he didn't recognize. They looked old, royal, sacred. "Where are you from?" Jonas asked softly. Lyra hesitated. Her fingers tightened around her bag. "We come from Kelran Valley," she whispered finally. "My mother. She is not like the others. She is important." "Important how?" Lyra lowered her head. "The gang wants her because she refused to serve them. She protected our people. She saved children. They call her a traitor. But she only wanted peace." Jonas listened quietly. He had seen enough suffering in the desert to understand. People like Sira always ended up chased by monsters. "And you?" Jonas asked. "Why do they want you?" Lyra's voice cracked as she spoke. "Because I am her daughter. And because they think I am useful. They think they can sell me." Jonas felt anger burn inside him, hot, sharp, and rising fast. He clenched his jaw as he watched the little girl tremble. The idea of anyone hurting her felt wrong. Deeply wrong. He stood up, determined. "You are safe here," Jonas said firmly. "I won't let them take either of you." Lyra looked up at him with huge, uncertain eyes. "But the gang is strong," she whispered. "Humans avoid them. Even soldiers don't fight them. They kill anyone who stands against them." Jonas took a breath. "Maybe others run," he said. "But I won't." His voice was calm, but inside, his heart was sharpening into steel. He walked outside and looked over the desert. The sky was darkening fast, and the wind was cold. He knew the gang would strike again as soon as night covered their movements. He only had hours, maybe less, to prepare. Jonas checked the outside of his workshop. The gang had left deep boot prints and bike tracks. They would return with more warriors. Maybe 20. Maybe 50. He went back inside and started pulling out tools, metal rods. Wires, spare engine parts, old explosives from mining kits, and 2 sun batteries. Lyra watched him with confusion. "What are you doing?" "Preparing," Jonas answered. "If they want a fight, they're going to get one." "But you are only one human," she said. "They are many." Jonas smiled, just a little, an honest smile filled with stubborn courage humans were famous for. "Sometimes," he said, "one human is enough." He worked fast. He rigged wires to the door. He placed traps around the outside sand. He set motion alarms made from scrap metal. He built a small electrified fence using solar batteries. Every sound of metal echoed through the workshop as he transformed it into a fortress. Lyra stood near him quietly, watching. "You are not scared?" she asked. Jonas tightened the bolt. "I am," he admitted. "But fear doesn't matter when someone needs help." Lyra's eyes softened. For the first time since arriving, she almost smiled. Night arrived slowly, creeping across the dunes like a black blanket. The stars appeared one by one. The cold wind cut through the desert like a knife. Then Jonas heard it. First a hum, then a roar. Then dozens of engines waking up the night. He stepped outside, rifle in hand. In the distance, floating dust clouds glowed red under bike lights. The Sand Fang gang was returning, this time with full force, and Jonas stood alone, refusing to run. Jonas felt the shockwave hit the ground under his feet as the Sand Fang gang arrived in full force. Dozens of hover bikes formed a deadly circle around his workshop, their red lights glowing through the dust like hungry eyes. The engines roared louder than thunder. The air felt heavy, charged with violence. Inside, Lyra held her unconscious mother tightly. Every boom shook the metal walls around them. Jonas rushed in, grabbed a wrench, checked his traps, then stepped right back outside. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were sharp. He had made his choice. He would fight. The first group of hunters dismounted, carrying long blasters and bone knives. Their leader, Ragthur, stepped forward. His huge shadow stretched across the sand. "Human," Ragthur shouted. "This is your last chance. Hand over the woman and child, and maybe we let you die quickly." Jonas took cover behind a metal pillar and shouted back, "They're under my protection. You want them? You'll have to go through me." The hunters laughed, a cold, cruel sound. Ragthur raised his hand, and the gang spread out, surrounding the workshop from all sides. Jonas tightened his grip on the rifle. He waited. The first hunter stepped onto a pressure plate hidden under the sand. Boom! The explosion threw fire into the sky. The hunter flew backward like a rag doll, landing with a thud. Jonas's trap had worked. Shouts filled the air. "He has mines spread out." Another stepped into the electrified wire Jonas had placed earlier. Sparks burst up his armor as he screamed and fell. The gang grew angry. Louder, wilder, Ragthur roared, "Destroy everything!" Blaster fire rained down on the workshop. Jonas ducked behind a metal shield he'd welded hours earlier. Sparks flew. The smell of burning metal filled the air. Inside, Lyra cried out, "Jonas, are you okay?" "I'm fine," he shouted back. Even though his heart was pounding hard, he fired his rifle, hitting one of the gang members in the leg. The alien fell down, screaming in rage. Jonas ran to another hiding spot, sliding across the sand as blaster bolts hit the ground behind him. Sweat dripped down his face. Fear tried to rise, but he forced it down. He wasn't fighting for himself. He was fighting for a mother and child who had no one else. A roar came from above. Jonas looked up just in time to see a heavy hunter jump off his bike, landing inches away. The alien swung a bone blade at Jonas's head. Jonas blocked it with his metal shield, sparks flying, then swung the wrench into the alien's jaw. The hunter staggered but didn't fall. He was huge, his muscles thick like stone. He grabbed Jonas by the throat. Jonas choked, gasping for air, clawing at the aliens grip. The world blurred. But suddenly, a high-pitched scream filled the air. Not Jonas's, not the alien's, Lyra's. Her voice echoed across the desert, a strange, powerful sound that vibrated inside the bones. The alien hunter froze. His grip loosened. His eyes crossed, and he dropped, unconscious. Jonas fell to his knees, sucking in air. He looked up. Lyra stood in the doorway, shaking, tears rolling down her cheeks. I couldn't stay inside. Jonas forced a smile. Good timing, but her face was pale with fear. There are too many. You can't fight them all. Jonas almost agreed, but he couldn't lose now. Not after coming this far. The Pentus Vode. Gang regrouped. Ragnar stepped forward, furious. You think tricks and traps can stop us? He growled. We burn this place to the ground. He raised his blaster cannon. Jonas grabbed Lyra and threw both of them back inside as a massive explosion blasted the workshop wall. Metal tore like paper. Flames burst into the room. Dust filled the air. Jonas stumbled, but did not fall. He pulled Lyra behind a counter and shielded her with his body. Heat washed over them. When the smoke cleared, Ragnar stepped into the burning workshop. He looked around, smiling with cruel teeth. The woman, the child, where are they? Jonas stood up slowly, coughing from the smoke. His clothes were burned, his face blackened, but his eyes were full of iron. You're not touching them, Jonas said. Ragnar laughed. You're one human. I am a war tracker of the desert clans. You think you can stop me? Jonas didn't answer, because behind Ragnar, the floorboard moved. Sira, the dying mother, was awake, barely standing, but awake. Her eyes burned with a deep, ancient strength. She whispered something in a language Jonas didn't know. Ragnar turned. And for the first time that night, the killer looked afraid. Ragnar froze at the sound of Sira's voice. Her tone was weak, cracking, barely above a whisper. Yet it carried something ancient and powerful. Even injured, even half alive, her presence suddenly filled the burning room like a storm tightening. Around a single point, Jonas looked at her in shock. Sira, you shouldn't stand. You're too weak. But Sira raised one trembling hand, stopping him. Her eyes glowed faintly pale blue, turning brighter, almost white. Lyra gasped and rushed toward her mother, but Sira gently touched her daughter's head. Stay behind Jonas, she whispered. Ragnar stepped back, his expression twisting between anger and fear. You are supposed to be dying, he growled. You should not have this strength. Sira's breath shook. A mother's strength never dies. She lifted her palm, revealing the symbol Jonas had noticed earlier, the carved pendant. It glowed softly. Ragnar's eyes widened. That mark, no, that cannot be real. It is, Sira said. And you know what it means. Jonas looked from face to face. What does it mean? What is that symbol? Ragnar's voice dropped into something close to respect, but also fear. She is royal blood, a highborn of the Kelran line. Jonas blinked. Royal? But Sira was already falling. Jonas rushed forward to catch her before she collapsed to the floor again. Her body was burning with fever. The moment of strength had drained her completely. Ragnar's fear twisted into rage. If we deliver her daughter to the slavers, every clan will fear us. Bring the child. Lyra screamed as hunters behind Ragnar moved toward her. Jonas didn't think. He grabbed a burning metal pipe from the floor and swung it. Sparks flew as he smashed one hunter's jaw. Another charged forward, and Jonas kicked him into the half-collapsed wall. Dust rained down. The heat from the flames made the air hard to breathe. Lyra stood frozen, shaking. Jonas shouted, "Get back, stay behind me." But everything changed in the next second. A strange humming sound filled the workshop, low at first, then rising. Lyra's eyes glowed bright blue. Her hands shook at her sides. She wasn't crying anymore. The sound grew louder. Jonas felt his teeth vibrate. The hunters stopped moving. Ragnar's face twisted. Not the child. She is one of the Echoborn. Jonas had no idea what that meant. But Lyra's power exploded outward like a shockwave of sound and light. The hunters staggered. Their ears bled. Their knees buckled. One by one, they collapsed to the ground unconscious. Jonas covered Sira with his body as the shockwave hit him too, pushing him backward. Lyra screamed again, the sound tearing through the air like lightning. The blast shattered tools, windows, and even cracked the metal floorboards. When it finally ended, everything fell into silence. Lyra dropped to her knees, exhausted. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to. Jonas knelt beside her. You saved your mother. You saved me. But Ragnar, he wasn't unconscious. He had managed to cover his ears with thick armor plates before the full blast hit him. He rose slowly, shaking with rage. You, little monster, he spat. Your kind should have been wiped out. Jonas stood up, placing himself between Ragnar and the children. Ragnar charged. Jonas grabbed a heavy toolbox and slammed it into Ragnar's head. The alien staggered but didn't fall. His thick hide absorbed the blow. He grabbed Jonas by the arm and threw him across the workshop. Jonas crashed into the metal wall, coughing blood. Human, Ragnar growled. You have no idea what you stand against. That child is worth more than a planet. She can control armies. She can bend minds. She is a little girl, Jonas said through clenched teeth, standing again. A scared child who needed help, and you're not taking her. Ragnar roared and lifted his bone blade. Jonas didn't retreat. He reached up, grabbed a hanging chain attached to a loose engine block, and pulled with all his strength. The heavy engine fell straight onto Ragnar's back. Crash! The war tracker slammed into the floor, pinned under the metal. He howled in fury, unable to move. Jonas stepped forward, breathing hard. Stay down. But Ragnar's voice came out as a dangerous whisper. You think this ends here? There are 50 more riders. They will burn everything. They will tear you apart. They will. Suddenly footsteps approached from outside. Fast, heavy. Many. Jonas turned pale. This wasn't over. More gang members were coming. And now they knew there was a royal child inside. Asterisk. Jonas heard the footsteps before he saw the shapes. The ground outside shook with many boots, 20, maybe 30. The Sandfang gang was regrouping, angry and ready to kill. The first attack had failed, and now they were coming with everything they had. Inside the broken workshop, Lyra held her unconscious mother tightly. Sira's breathing was uneven again, her strength almost gone after standing earlier. Jonas wiped the blood from his lip and looked around the ruined room. He knew one thing. They could not stay here. If they stayed, the gang would break through and slaughter everyone inside. Jonas moved to the half-collapsed back wall and kicked it open. Behind it was a narrow passage he had dug months ago, originally for storing old spare parts. Now it looked like a way out. Come on, Jonas said. We're leaving. Lyra stared at him. Where will we go? Jonas grabbed a backpack filled it with water, rations, batteries, and tools. The old human ruins, north side of the canyon. There are stone walls, tunnels, and high ground. I can defend it. But Jonas, they will follow. He looked into the child's scared eyes. I know, and that's why we need to move fast. He lifted Sira gently, placing her on his back. Lyra held his hand tightly as they crawled through the small passage. Behind them, the flames spread deeper into the workshop. The roof groaned like it might fall. Outside, night wind hit them sharply. The desert sky was bright with stars, but the air smelled of smoke and danger. Jonas sprinted across the sand with Lyra beside him and Sira on his back. Every breath burned in his lungs. His legs ached, but he didn't stop. Behind them, the gang found the open wall. They shouted, they roared, they mounted their bikes again. Jonas didn't look back. He ran, the old human. Ruin stood on top of a rocky cliff half buried in sand. Jonas climbed the slope, his muscles screaming. Once they reached the top, he gently placed Sira inside an old stone hall, safely behind thick walls. He handed Lyra water. "Stay with her. Don't come out until I call you." "What will you do?" Lyra whispered. Jonas walked to the entrance of the ruins and pulled out old metal parts, wires, and solar batteries from his bag. "Defend you," he said simply. Lyra watched him silently, tears in her eyes, but they were not only tears of fear. There was something else in them, something like hope. Jonas worked fast. The ruins had old human technology, broken panels, rusted drones, half-buried generators. Most of it was dead, but Jonas was a mechanic. He knew how to breathe life into dead machines. He rewired panels into shock traps. He connected the old generator to the stone doorway. He built a high-voltage coil from scrap metal and batteries. He placed sharpened rods in narrow corners. He used the ruins like a fortress. By the time he finished, sweat poured down his face, and his fingers were raw. But he wasn't done. He climbed to the highest stone tower and looked out. In the distance, red lights moved like angry insects, dozens of bikes speeding across the desert toward him. Jonas gripped his rifle. A human alone against an army. And yet, he stood tall. No fear, only will. The Sandfang gang reached the base of the cliff. Their leader now, a towering alien named Varkesh, pointed his spear upward. "Bring me the child," he roared. "Kill the human." The gang charged up the cliffside. The first trap-activated electric wires burst to life, shocking 3 hunters into unconsciousness. Others slipped on hidden oil Jonas had poured across the rocks. One fell back screaming into the sand. The hunters grew furious. "He's just one human." "Move!" Jonas fired down from the tower, hitting 2 in the legs. He shifted positions quickly as blaster bolts shot past. The night exploded with light, fire, and screams. But still, they climbed out more and more. Jonas backed up to the second trap and triggered it. A shock coil burst, sending lightning across the entrance. 4 hunters collapsed instantly. But Varkesh kept coming. His body was big, armored, and built for war. He crashed through the electrified doorway like it was made of paper. Jonas raised his rifle. Varkesh smashed it away. The rifle flew across the ruins. Jonas reached for a wrench, swung. But Varkesh grabbed him and threw him against a stone pillar. The impact knocked the breath from his chest. Jonas struggled to stand, but Varkesh grabbed his throat. "You protected the wrong people," Varkesh hissed. "A mechanic cannot change fate." Jonas's vision blurred. His strength faded. But then, a small hand grabbed his wrist. Lyra. She stood beside him, eyes glowing faint blue. "Don't hurt him," she cried. Her voice shook the air again, but this time it focused on one single target. Varkesh. The war leader stumbled, dropping Jonas. His armor cracked from the force of the sound. Jonas crawled to the generator switch. One chance. He pulled it. A massive surge of electricity blasted through the metal floor where Varkesh stood. The war leader screamed. Sparks exploded. Varkesh fell silent. Unmoving. The ruins fell quiet. Jonas collapsed to his knees, barely conscious. Lyra knelt beside him, crying and holding his hands. "You're alive," she whispered. "You didn't give up." Jonas smiled weakly. "I told you, I won't let anyone hurt you." But then Lyra looked up sharply. Lights appeared in the sky, dozens of them. Not gang bikes. Something bigger. Something powerful. Their arrival made the gang flee in terror. Jonas stared as they descended. Ships. Alien ships. A whole fleet. They were coming for SCIFY. Everything was about to change. Asterisk. The ships descended like falling stars, bright, silent, and powerful. Their blue lights cut through the darkness, turning the desert night into glowing daylight. Jonas squinted up at them, still breathless from the fight. His arms shook, his chest hurt. But he stayed on his feet, holding Lyra close so she wouldn't fall. The Sandfang gang, those who survived, saw the ships and panicked. "It's the Kelran fleet," someone screamed. "Retreat! Retreat!" They dropped their weapons and fled down the cliff, leaving their dead and wounded behind. No one wanted to face the warriors of the Kelran royal clans. The gang had hunted the wrong people, and they felt it now. A large ship landed gently outside the old ruins. Its doors slid open with a soft hum, revealing tall soldiers in glowing armor. Their eyes scanned the area until they found Lyra. "Princess Lyra," one soldier cried. "We found her. She's alive." Lyra took a step back, unsure and frightened. She clung to Jonas's sleeve like she didn't want to let go. Then another figure stepped forward, a woman in long white armor, her face stern but relieved. "A commander, where is the queen?" she asked urgently. Lyra pointed toward the ruined hall. "Inside. She is hurt. Badly." The soldiers rushed inside. Jonas followed slowly, his legs weak. They reached Sira, still lying on the stone floor. Her breathing was shallow, but she was alive. The commander knelt beside her. "My queen, we came the moment the ancient beacon activated." Sira opened her eyes weakly. "It was not I who activated it," she whispered. "It was the human." She turned her head slightly and looked at Jonas with deep gratitude. Jonas felt his throat tighten. He had only pressed the button because he saw the symbol glowing. He didn't even know what it meant. The commander looked at Jonas now, eyes filled with shock and respect. "You protected the queen and her heir." "Alone?" Jonas rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. "Well, not alone. Lyra helped." "And your queen, she stood up when she shouldn't have." The commander nodded slowly. "Still, you fought 30 armed hunters. You saved our royal bloodline. You did what even trained warriors fear to attempt." Jonas shrugged lightly. "They needed help, that's all." But the commander wasn't finished. She turned to her soldiers. "Bow." And they did, every one of them bowing their heads toward Jonas, a simple human mechanic who had refused to run. Lyra smiled softly, her small hand finding Jonas's again. The soldiers carried Sira to the medical bay inside the ship. Jonas and Lyra stayed close. Healing machines hummed as alien doctors worked quickly, placing warm glowing patches over Sira's wounds, lowering her fever and repairing internal injuries. Jonas had never seen such advanced technology. It looked like magic. Lyra sat beside him, whispering, "She will live now. She will be okay." Jonas smiled at her. "Good, you deserve that." After a long hour, Sira opened her eyes fully for the first time since she collapsed at Jonas's door. She sat up slowly, supported by a healer. Lyra ran into her arms, sobbing with relief. "My child." Sira whispered, hugging her tightly. "You are safe, because of him." She looked at Jonas with eyes full of emotion. "Jonas, I owe you my life and my daughter's." Jonas shook his head awkwardly. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Sira said firmly. "Many saw us fall in the sand. Many turned away. You did not." She reached out her hand. Jonas hesitated, then took it gently. "You risked everything," she continued. "You fought without fear. You stood alone against killers. You are not just human, Jonas. You are honored among us." Jonas felt heat rise in his face. He wasn't used to praise. He was only a mechanic, a nobody. But Sira wasn't finished. "Jonas, My people will want to reward you. Power, credits, land, anything you ask. Jonas looked at Lyra, then back at Sira. I don't want anything, he said honestly. Except for you two too. Be safe, Sira smiled softly. You already gave us safety. Now let us give you something in return. She stood weak but steady and faced him. Jonas, will you come with us? My clan. My home. My people would welcome a human like you. And Lyra would be happy to have you near. Lyra looked up, her small voice hopeful. Please, stay with us. You're our hero. Jonas didn't speak for a long moment. He looked toward the desert, the place he had lived alone for many years. Nothing waited for him there now. No one cared if he stayed or left, but here, a mother he saved. A child who trusted him. A future that felt meaningful. He nodded slowly. Yes, he said. I'll come. Lyra jumped forward and hugged him tightly. Sira bowed her head in gratitude. Outside, the desert wind blew softly, carrying away the smoke and danger. The Sanfang gang was broken. Their terror ended, and the story of the human who defied the gang began to spread across the galaxy, told from ship to ship, world to world. A hero born not from strength, but from courage. A simple mechanic who became a legend.